Hello, everybody. This is Ty Hua with the Equipod podcast brought to you by Botu Pharma USA. We are very excited to have another guest with us, Dr. Fabio Luvizzari. I hope I said that right. Doctor, how are you?
Good, Ty. How about yourself?
Hey, I can't complain. Nobody'd listen. We're through the equine breeding season, so I hope you had a good season. I know a lot of people that I talk to, every time they are through with the equine breeding season, they have a short window to kind of breathe, and then it's like, no, we got to gear up for the next season.
That's the reality of most of the breeding centers all over the world. Our season it's pretty much done now. What we're doing is just freezing semen and preparing for export some of the horses that we work with, and gear up, reuniting all the data, and think about the things we need to prepare for the next season. But this is the moment to breathe and look for the next one, actually.
Yes,
But
sir.
not the crazy tornado, hurricane like breeding season.
Yeah. So before we dig into what you do and all that, let's kind of tell the listeners, who is Dr. Fabio? What is he all about? Where's he from? Can you just give us a little bit of background on who you are and what you do?
Yes, sir. I believe my accent already exposed me. I'm originally from Brazil. I'm a veterinarian. I graduated myself in 2003, and I worked exclusively with equine breeding since then. It's one area that I'm really passionate and I really like what I can work with.
Where in Brazil are you from?
I'm from São Paulo state. I born in the capital, but in a young age, my parents have to move to the countryside, to the north, west part of São Paulo state. And that was what brought me close to horses.
As a young kid, you were very passionate
Yes.
about horses.
Yes, I started. Since I can recall, I always said that I was going to be a veterinarian to work with horses. That was a statement in mind. I had a chance to grow up close to my grandparents, and they took me to the farm on the weekends and on the school vacation. So that was where I grew up, and always since 2 years old, I was riding with my cousins. At 4, I was riding by myself and always involved with them on the cattle working and the farming operation. And that's what I cultivate most of my passion. I had a cousin and an uncle that were mixed practice vets, so they worked both with small and large animals, and I shadowed them a lot. So I got as my first inspiration my cousin and my uncle as my initial mentors.
That's perfect.
And then that drove me to do vet school, to apply for vet school, a little bit against my parents' will. But it was something that I was obstinate to do and always were my passion. And since first day of vet school, when they first ask you, what are your goals in school? What are you looking for to work later? From my first day to all my graduation, I always said that I was going to work with horses. I didn't know what area, because it was all brand new and wide options to me. And back in that time, it was a little hard for a veterinarian to work exclusively with equine medicine. The folks that came before me used to say, you got to do everything. You got to be a general practice or large or mixed animal practice, so you can have both of the worlds. But to me, that doesn't make sense. I always thought if I could get really good on that, I could work exclusively with horses, and that's what I tried. The university that I went was a very agricultural area, so they have most food production farms on the surroundings. A lot of poultry, a lot of swine, and a lot of dairy. So horses were a little bit on something hard to see very often, that many patients in the school. To compensate that, I had the idea of always do externships since my first year in vet school. So I tried to go through as many areas as possible in equine medicine, from nutrition, management, clinic, surgery, and repro, to test and try which one I would like better. And on my 3rd to the 4th year of vet school, I was fortunate enough to be an extern of Dr. João Fleury, which was, and it is probably the father of the non-surgical embryo transfer method that we use until today. And that man was a genius. And loved to explain and teach his students during the externship. I think when I saw an embryo on the filter for the very first time, it makes my eye bright, and I said, "Man, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do for a living." I can't believe that that little ball is a horse. From that step ahead, I focus on equine breeding, and all my other externships and internships and residency were focused on equine breeding on all areas, from neonatal medicine, mare operation, and stallion operation as well.
Perfect. And now what are you doing now?
Now I work at Valley Equine. I am in charge of the stallion laboratory, and my role on this area is managing and working with all the steps from collection to semen processing, shipping, and freezing, and helping that lab unit work in conjunction with the uh, other areas of our farm or clients outside.
Perfect. So we know where you came from. We know what you kind of do on a day-to-day basis. And you've been around for a while, right?
Yes.
What changes have you seen in the industry since you started university to, your many years in the field now managing the stallion side?
I think it changed it. I started practice in the first boom of equine embryo transfer being commercially available. So I think I saw that when I will speak a little bit more of quarter horse industry, which is what I'm deep in. Around 2002 or three, Quarter Horse Association really allowed or permitted register more than one foal per mare per year. So that pushed the scientific community and the clinics and all the breeding centers all over the world to get use it and apply the embryo transfer technique. So that was the first boom of commercially produced horses through conventional embryo transfer. I saw that happening. Before that, all the breeders would be or praying or doing all their efforts to have one foal born per mare per year. And if everything goes smooth, that was the goal. After that, with the embryo transfer being applied commercially, people start to use more this technique to improve or to reduce the generation interval, making a mare produce more foals per year, testing different stallions. And I think the genetic jump or the advance on the genetics was significant with the embryo transfer being commercial. I think that was the first major change that we saw happening. With the needing to do more embryos per mare per year, forced the scientific community and the breeding centers all over the world to improve their techniques, to improve their methods of collecting, processing, handling, shipping semen, then later shipping embryos, then new protocols to prepare recipient mares to transfer those embryos, because not always you have cycling mares available. So then it came all that. On the first advance and change that I saw was the shipping containers. In the beginning, we used a big plastic shipping container that was heavy, that was expensive to buy, and that was expensive to ship. So I think a big change was when the scientific community or the researchers developed new methods of shipping semen with the lighter boxes that we use nowadays with recyclable ice bricks that you can reuse. I think that was a huge advance. Nowadays, it's so common for us that we don't realize how much economic change that caused. Other change that we saw happening through the years was the extenders. At first, all we knew was basically one kind of extender. There was a candy formula based, and that was it, and that was the only one available. Different brands, but basically the same formula available, and that had to suit all the stallions. So if you had a stallion that didn't cool proper or you need something that was had a deficiency in some nutrients or some sort of helping for that experiment that wasn't available. With the advance of new products with different compositions that can suit the vast majority of the horses and improve the bad ones that had problems to cooling or that was not possible to be shipped, that was another huge step or a huge advance that we saw on the equine industry. And not just for that, for frozen semen. I was not that old to work with the macro tubes. I didn't freeze on that. I already started on the French straw, a half CC straw, but I've seen that and I'm still seeing until nowadays. There was semen that was frozen on macro tubes, 4 or 5 ml macro tubes that are still good and people are still using today. But I saw the first freezing extenders were somehow a little toxic to the semen. Later, with the advanced and the addition of new cryoprotectors, the frozen semen became a commercial reality for most horses, most breeds all over this country and other countries in the world. So it made it possible, the genetic exchange between faraway countries or locations inside the same country, export, import. So I think the advances on the freezing extenders helped a lot on that. Not just that, the changes in the methods of cooling and freezing from the conventional styrofoam box with nitrogen through the computerized machines nowadays that can control the cooling and the freezing curve a little bit more precise. And I think the biggest change that we are living right now is the commercial use of ICSI, intracytoplasmic sperm injection, which it's been the game changer that we are now living on. So from one foal per mare to a year, as right now you can have one mare aspirated maybe one or a couple of sessions in the season and have all their embryos produced and either vitrified and or frozen to be kept or transferred, and allowing that mare having producing in a year what maybe one brood mare in the past would produce on her entire life. So it's a huge milestone from on the last 25, 20 years we're talking about.
Yeah, you'd mentioned something that kind of blew my mind a bit that I didn't even think about, but those really big containers that you used to ship in, can
Mhm.
you imagine shipping those containers today at the price and the inflation that we have now and how much that would cost?
And not just that, I imagine places like that ship a lot, that has a huge volume of shippings every day. How many containers of that they will have to buy, and what will be the capital expended just to buy that, and then the shipping costs and all that. So it would probably compromise somehow the viability of the logistics nowadays. I'm positive on that. So, and not just that, the other shipping containers helped a lot on the process of the cooling curve. So I think it was a more suitable cooling curve for the semen than the previous ones.
Yeah. So I did want to ask you, you talked about some of the changes that you've seen in the industry. Has the expectation from the breeders changed as well? From when you first started to now?
In parts, they still want to fall on the ground. But the difference now is they want to fall on the ground, they want the embryo freeze it for the future, and they want more than one fall on the ground. They want to test more horses. They want to try and see what are the stallions that will produce better with that brood mare or that show mare. So if we consider when ICSI was first developed or used by or during the researching time for develop the technique, it was thought to be something to help the old brood mare that cannot produce or conceive by conventional ways, or the stallion that was deceased that has just a small amount of frozen semen remaining. And now it's not just use it for that. Now it's more like a strategic procedure for the breeders. So they are using that as a tool more than just something to help old mares or limited semen stallions. I think the expectation of the breeders changed a little with this. Now they are planning better. They are trying to use all the power or all the breeding power and the tools that they have to do this available. The competition level is higher. The horses are producing more and more offspring. So in order to be competitive, people are having to adequate their breeding operations to that, to having a real chance to produce a horse that can be competitive to the others horses produced by the other stallions and mares. So I think in essence is the same. They still want the foal born healthy on the ground and on conditions to win. The passion or the motor of the breeding industry is still the same, but the methods to do this, I think grown up in an exponential level.
Sure. And within the equine world, and I think the majority of the listeners will agree with me, but equine breeders, or I should say just equine people in general, love the roll up your sleeves and get the work done. Do you find that within the breeding side, there are more people nowadays that are doing their own breeding, or are they still relying on, equine reproduction centers like Valley Equine?
I think with the improvement of those techniques and for advanced techniques, no, they are relying on referral centers to do this, to have the results that they are expecting, to helping them achieve those results. The basic breeding farms where they are still breeding a small group of mares, maybe there's a little increase. But for the large volume or the more intensive breeding operations, they rely more on the companies that can provide them with a better range of services, from the stallion to falling out. They want to be making sure that they have everything happening as it should be in a proper way.
Sure. So then in your job right now, in your role with Valley Equine Services, what's the most rewarding part of your job? What excites you about your job?
I really like when I can help the amazing horses that I have a chance to work here reach their breeding efficiency in high level. I help them having mares bred far away from here in the country, in the other countries. So I think it's helping them achieve a higher breeding efficiency. It's one of the most rewarding parts of my work, knowing that they are producing the next champions for the future, for the next generation, is also something that drives me, that makes me do whatever I can to achieve this goals. I think it's really rewarding to help clients and vets on the other side having their success. So if with my work I can be part of that, I feel like a team player, and I'm pretty happy that I did that assistance to my colleague on the other side score good, and him and his client are happy with the result. They are having a successful breeding season. This is what it rewards me.
Sure. And with every role, there's the good and the bad. So what are some of the challenges that you deal with there at Valley Equine, whether that is, specific to your center, or just as a whole in the industry?
I think the biggest challenge is whenever you have a new horse that you need to figure out, that you need to get used to the horse so you can better understand the horse, see what works for him or what not. We have a constant pressure, not in a bad situation, but we have a pressure from the stallion owners. They want their horses to breed the bigger number of the mares that the horse can, because they understand the statistics are better if they breed more mares. Higher are the chances of one of those offspring be the next champion, and everybody will come back and try to breed to that horse again. We want to help them to do this, but we are always in a situation that we want to let the stallion breed as much mares as he can without compromising his fertility and numbers. So I think the biggest challenge is to find the balance, the booking number for each stallion. Doesn't have, or at least I don't have knowledge of a mathematical formula that you can use, the number of mares, the number, but we try to adjust. So as right now, we are collecting the data from the breeding season, compiling all that, evaluating and checking what are the up and down sides as method of shipment, as number of progressive cells per dose, trying to find out what is the best area or the best number for that horse to work with, and trying to help them breed as many mares as possible, and they can breed. So I think this is one challenge. And like I said, the new horse is always a challenge until we find out what is the system that works better for the horse, what extender the horse semen performs better, what is the good methods of shipping that the horse has good fertility, the cooling curve or the freezing curve for the horse. I think those are the challenges that I see on my area. And the other challenge that it's inherent to this sector that I work with is time. we are always running against time. So we have a big number of stallions that we have to divide in two groups to be collected. One group one day, the other group the next day, and they collected on alternating days. So we can have the horses collected before our cutoff time to ship through counter to counter, FedEx, or being picked up here on the stallion station, or to breed the mares on farm. So we are always on the clock. We cannot do things in a hurry, but we cannot rely on being slow, because if we do that, we ain't gonna finish the job that we have to do on that collection day. So those are the major challenges that we have.
Sure. So then do you have a set protocol for new stallions that are brought on for your guys' service?
Yes, my approach, Ty, is to always, of course, if we can have a history, if it's a horse that it's been already breeding mares and we can have some history, we will take that and we're going to evaluate the horse, do a clinical exam. And inside the laboratory, we try to test different extenders. So we're going to collect a horse and dilute his raw semen in at least 5 or 6 different extenders and compare them, checking them after 24 hours and 48 hours of cooling, and also checking them on the extenders that we find that the stallion performed better, using that extender for centrifuge and then freeze that stallion semen to see what are the best combination for that. Other than that, we're going to try to help the horse produce the best quality semen that he can, keeping him under good conditions as nutrition, body condition, athletic condition, and if he needs some sort of supplement to help on the spermatogenesis, this is something that we're probably gonna offer to that horse in those cases.
What would you say to somebody that, let's say they bring their horse to you the first day and they say, my horse is perfect. I don't want you to change anything. Don't test him. This is the extender you use. Like, what would you say to somebody that's not open to actually doing your protocol?
I don't see this happening very often nowadays, because people that will bring us their horse will try to let us work on the horse, and they will bring the horse here because they initially trust our company and the service. But if I have someone that came with this mentality, I will try to orientate with technical factors. So I will show the person the studies that I have that are published, the papers, and I will try to orientate and educate. See, I understand your opinion, but I would like to show you the data that the science offered us. So we know that omegas help them in the semen quality. Cholesterol, it's one important component of the phospholipidic sperm cell membrane. So, and we also know that obese horse or metabolic horses or lame horses would have some complications or decrease in semen quality. So trying to show that information to the client, and if by chance we are successful in convincing him and he will let us try, we can later prove with numbers, hey, that was what your horse came here producing after a certain period, after changing a couple of things on your horse. This is what we have now. And if they really see and feel the results, I believe that after that, they will be on board with us whenever we suggest any changes.
Perfect. Yeah, there's, I've maybe you don't see it a lot, but I have a lot of conversations with people that are pretty set in their ways. If it was good enough for my dad, if it was good enough for my granddad, it's good enough for me. But I think just with the advancements in technology that you referred to at the beginning of the podcast, like, why wouldn't you be open to maybe something that's better that your dad didn't have access to or your granddad didn't have access to?
And I think that there's a lot of on the culture, because in the past there was one really good extender that fits a lot of horses, that he created a dogma that was the extender for everybody. And when breeding got big as it is right now, more stallions were introduced on the sire population. So we had a chance to identify problem individuals. Maybe they were great on the show pen, and in matter of fact, normally they are. And those are the ones that we need to help, because they are great performance. There's a demand for their foals, but the semen doesn't match that demand. the semen quality doesn't match their demand. Whenever we start to do the tests, if the person jump on board with us and let us do the tests, and we can show that the fertility numbers change, they will believe after that. And with the products nowadays, you can rely on just one. There's options for you to test. And one thing I have as a personal feeling from all this, not all the horses are the same. Not all the horses like the same extender, and the difference between them can sometimes be really significant. So whoever tests and compare and look, it's pretty visible. They can understand. And they will understand when they have 1 year reporting 30 mares bred to the stallion, and on the next year they report 100 mares bred to the stallion. And they ask, how would you do that? It was the same booking number, but how could you achieve 30 in 1 year and 100? Because you do the adjustments, you do the changes that your tests presented to you as the best option.
Yeah, I mean, horses are not machines, right? They've got preferences. They've got, they change from day to day sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you have to be flexible and not just mechanical with the breeding of these horses.
I understand that this statement is true for any area of equine breeding, but it's very more true or more applicable to stallions. If you do things with stallion, cast it, lock it in only one method, I just do this way, I just think this is the best way, this is the good way, you're going to be not achieving the best efficiency in a few horses. Because I noticed that each individual will have preferences or will perform better in certain conditions, certain extenders, certain cooling methods. They vary in between them a lot.
Yeah. There's a funny story, speaking of preferences, and I might butcher this story. One of my friends in the industry, Joss Motters, had told me this story. An owner dropped off a stallion for him to collect, and he could not get anything out of this horse. And it turned out that he had to say to the horse, get on her, before he could collect anything. So as soon as he said, get on her, it was almost like a switch went off and he could collect the horse. He actually got semen out of the horse. So these are the preferences, and these are, it's kind of a funny story, but that's just what the horses are. They have their preferences. They like what they like. It is what it is. I mean, have you seen that?
Not exactly like this one that Dr. Motorshead have, but there's a couple of horses that they will have a preference on a certain mare or a certain weight to collect or a certain temperature or pressure or phantom high, or some horses need to tease a little longer, some horses need to go straight, some of them don't need a mare on the collection shed. And I think the beauty of equine breeding, it's for those who knows and who can feel that something is not working for them and has the idea or the feeling, hey, let's change this, let's try this. You cannot be a slave, let's say like this, of a horse's particularities or picky aspects. You need to condition them by repetition, by training, by positive reinforcement, and have them enjoying the collection like it is another sport. Like a cutting horse likes to cut.
Mm-hmm.
A bucking horse likes to buck. A trotting horse likes to trot. The stallion, in my opinion, is an athlete that needs to be in good conditions, in good shape, and needs to like what he does. If the horse comes to the breeding shed and get frustrated, get too much reprimand, something it's not good for them there. They will say, why will I be there? Or if they are in pain, or if they it needs to be some place that they feel good, they feel comfortable, and they will do their activity, which is reproduce, collect. So I understand that there's horses that are a little tricky than the others, and this to be able to see the picture from outside, try to understand what was going on, and help the horse collect, help the horse perform. It's pretty cool. Some days you don't sleep, you think about that because it's something that takes your sleep away. But whenever you figure that out, it's helpful for the horse, and you can have that situation fix it, and the horse can go back to his activity.
So looking ahead in the industry, what sort of opportunities or changes do you see shaping the future of the equine reproduction industry?
I think in the future we are seeing some new changes or introductions that are about to happen. I think there's a some study and some new products being launched on extended long life for sperm. So I believe those extenders have a chance to play an important role in the future to help vets ship semen to longer distance and or when logistic situations can compromise the shipping the semen longevity. So I think those products should help the industry in a future, and it's pretty much happening right now. The other change that I've seen that is gonna somehow impact the industry is the semen sex sorting. It's already commercially available, and it's available as right now for ICSI only, frozen semen for ICSI. But I think it's kind of close to be commercially available for fresh semen. So I can see that influencing the industry in a certain way. I think those are the closest changes. And I can see in a near future IVF becoming commercially available. I don't believe it's going to replace ICSI, but it's going to be a very interesting option for cooled semen at first and hopefully later for frozen semen as well, due to the fact that you can have a mare aspirated, more have oocytes obtained culture, and they can be fertilized by the semen itself, not the sperm being injected inside the oocyte. So kind of more close to natural. And I am a believer that you should have less what is being called pathologic embryos, the embryos that are produced that didn't develop properly, do not produce in the heartbeat, or sometimes divided in two vesicles and becoming twin pregnancies. I have a feeling that IVF is going to produce less of those situations. So it's going to be a good alternative whenever you would have good quality cold semen available. And that's why I believe it's not going to replace ICSI, because not all the stallions will have their semen suitable for IVF in order than ICSI. Most of them can be used because they will be injected on the oocyte. So I think both techniques will coexist. X is going to be popular, and for many, many years, I think it was something that came to change the game. And that's why it's being applied for a lot of breeders. But breeding is still going to be in a very open range between high-tech breeders and small breeders that will have one or two mares that they just want a foal a year, and they will rely on services as insemination, and the mare will carry the pregnancy, and other breeders will be looking for ICSI. So there's room for all levels of equine breeding in the world in those many different breeds.
Perfect. Well, one question that is not pre-planned that I didn't say that I want to ask you is, Fabio, if you could talk to your 5-year-old self, right? You said you've always wanted to be in the equine world, but if you had a chance to hop in a time machine, go back to yourself when you were 5, what is one thing you would say to yourself?
You could have looked at more other species than just horse, probably. But other than that, I would say the world was gonna change so much that I would say acquire information in more areas. I would say this. Don't close windows. Don't focus just too much on one step. And I would say prepare for big changes in the equine industry, because you're gonna see some, and I think we are still seeing. But I think the I would tell myself to keep always seeking for innovations. Always look for innovations. Keep open mind and try to learn more, to explore more, because it's always changing. Now we are about to having new equipment, new technologies, and be ready to deal with them requires preparation. So try to be more prepared. If I could go back and study all over, I would pay the double of attention on everything to see if I could understand things that are and being developed in the equine industry. But I think the equine industry changed a lot in those years. You get more specialized. And I will go back and I will tell myself, you were not wrong. Keep pursuing your dream. You can do just horses. I would tell myself, don't worry, you're gonna be fine.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Fabio, it's been a great conversation. Thank you so much for being on the show. We look forward to working together and hopefully crossing paths. We'll be out at AAEP. I don't know if you're going to be there or not in Denver this year. But yeah, we just are so grateful to have you on our show. And, you know, if you want to hop back on and talk about anything specific, you know where to get hold of me.
Yes, absolutely, Ty. I thank you for the opportunity. I think was a great conversation. I hope enlightening, and it was at least entertaining and informative for the podcast listeners. And I'm always open to help and share any way I can.
And where can our listeners, you know, let's say somebody's listening, they're like, you know what, I've always thought about bringing my stallions to a reproduction center. How can they find you?
We're here at Valley Equine in Stephenville, Texas. Our website is valleyequinerepro.com, and it has all the informations there. Uh, Very intensive facility that it's been working on all the areas from stallions, mares, foaling, recipient mares, rehab, and it's been helping a lot of equine breeders on their programs.
Awesome. And thank you for listening to the Equipod podcast brought to you by Botu Pharma USA, where you can learn all things reproduction related. If you haven't already, please like the video, share it, and probably most importantly, hit the subscribe button. And with that, we'll see you on the next episode.